Welcome to the UU Fellowship of Clemson for our Sunday morning worship service. I'm Holley Ulbrich. I'm the president-elect of the Board of Trustees, and I'm also delivering the message this morning. If you are a visitor, and we know that visitors can find us on the website, please let us know that you are here, and if you'd like to get reminders of upcoming services and other weekly information in the weekly connection, please send an email to our administrator or call the office at 864-654-5959. Leave a message with your email address and we'll add you to the mailing list. No salesman will call. This congregation is part of a progressive religious tradition dedicated to social justice, spiritual growth, and compassionate care for one another. I have a few announcements to share this morning. First of all, we have made it easier for people to contribute, and we hope you will all take advantage of that. We now have a PayPal button on our website that enables you to pay through a credit card or a bank account, however you're set up for PayPal. We depend on your continuing donations. It's unfortunate that we can't meet in our building right now. We hope we'll be able to do that before too long. We have a reopening task force working on that challenge. But in the meantime, we still have staff to pay, and we have utility bills, and we have mortgage, and we have to keep the building clean and the grounds maintained. And there's a lot of expenses associated with an ongoing operation, even though most of our contact right now is virtual contact. So please continue to send your contributions. For our members, we have a congregational meeting scheduled. You'll be getting a letter shortly from our president, Dave Sanders, to elect a secretary, get some budget input, make a small change in the bylaws, and then introduce our incoming interim minister, who doesn't start until September 1st, but is going to be actively participating, watching, observing at various meetings and events in the congregation in the intervening 2 months. That's Christina Branham Martin. So please mark your calendar for 12 o'clock on June 28th to attend a very short business meeting followed by an opportunity to meet with Christina. The other announcements, there's a number of events through the week that are run on Zoom. There's a meditation group, there's bingo, there's social time after the service today. I saw that there was some glitches last Sunday. We did finally get together, but the correct information for that meeting is in the weekly connection. So you can just click on that link and it will take you right here. If you can't find it or don't have the weekly connection, please send me an email at Holley Ulbrich, all one word, @gmail.com. Be sure to put the E in Holley, and I will send you a copy of the invitation to social time. We continue to try to care for our sick members. We don't have any highly specific celebrations and concerns other than a really meaningful kneel-in last Sunday at 5 o'clock in memory of George Floyd and in support of justice for all Americans, regardless of race, color, creed, gender, sexual orientation, or anything else, but particularly focused on the plight of African Americans in relationship to law and order and the police. Our opening words today are by David Rankin. To be human is to be in touch with the larger rhythms and harmonies of the universe. To be human is to be aware of the beauty of creation that continually unfolds. To be human is to be the servant of the earth upon which our existence depends. To be human is to embrace the present moment as a sacred, joyful occasion. To be human is to nurture bridges of intimacy that are global and inclusive. To be human is to be in a state of process, to live, to love, and to never die. As I light this chalice, let us recite together our affirmation. We gather together in a spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
Today, as we join our hearts and minds in a time to gather our celebrations and concerns, we begin by honoring all those who organized and all those who participated in the kneel-in last Sunday afternoon. It was, for many of us, a very moving experience, realizing how long 8 minutes and 46 seconds feels like when we know we have to remain silent. And yet we also know that in those 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we were surrounded by loved ones in a place of beauty and not against asphalt in a busy city. We continue to breathe. And so in this week, as we today honor Flag Day, we realize that honoring that celebration calls us to accountability as American citizens to maintain the highest beliefs and commitments of this nation. Also in this week is the celebration of Juneteenth. The date, June 19th, 1865, when federal troops got to Texas and told the enslaved peoples there that they were free. May we, as committed Unitarian Universalists, as Americans, as people of goodwill, commit ourselves to not only gather for kneel-ins remembering people who have been murdered, but may we also continue to find ways to address the systemic racism in our society. And for us, part of that will be continuing to support the work of the Clemson Area Pledge to End Racism. We know we have work to do on ourselves and our society, and yet our community is there to offer support and guidance so that we might, in our small acts of compassion and justice, begin to dismantle the racism in our society. And in this time we are also grateful for the support we give to one another, for the importance of community that sustains us. And so, in a spirit of love and compassion, let us hold up not only our concerns, the ones that we've shared here, but also all that which we're holding in our hearts. The work that we're doing also to adapt to our new reality, to care for and protect those who are vulnerable, our family members. And so I invite us to gather our hearts and minds in a few minutes of silent prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and of life, our hearts are broken. Our hearts are broken open. And may we use these broken places to allow the light of wisdom and of love and compassion and justice to shine on those places in ourselves and our community, in our town, where we might make a difference, where our words and actions can help heal the destruction of systemic racism. We hold up also today the awareness that as our lives shift, so too the earth is shifting. And we, in another week, will reach the longest day of the year. May we enter these days with wonder, with commitment, with both pain and joy. May we experience the breadth and depth of life and understand how truly we are all connected in the interdependent web of existence. Understanding that when one person is in pain, we too are affected. So may we be those who help transform our nation, our culture, and come to understand what might be possible if we build a beloved community. This we ask in the name of all that is sacred. Amen.
sermon today is Beyond Tribalism, Living Our Fifth Principle in Difficult Times. Our fifth principle is the democratic process. Specifically, we affirm and promote the right of conscience and use of the democratic process in society, in our congregations, and in society at large. This principle is especially important right now in the midst of serious challenges to that process and also in an election year. Non-UUs look at our principles and say, yeah, those sound good to me. But sometimes they stop short at democratic process. What does democracy have to do with religion? A lot, it turns out. Democratic process means one person, one vote. It means equality. It means respect and acceptance. It means interdependence and compromise, because no principle stands alone. All seven are linked together, the ones about our actions and the ones about our values. We cannot respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person without committing to the second and sixth principles: justice, equity, and compassion in a world that seeks to provide peace, liberty, and justice for all. Democratic religion, with a small d, is the legacy of Puritans, Quakers, Amish, Mennonites, and early Baptists from the radical wing of the Reformation. We and they have no hierarchy. We try to manage our affairs with respectful conversation and inclusiveness. Yes, we fail a lot as individuals, congregations, and a nation, as we witnessed this past week, but we dust ourselves off and try again. Michael Gerson describes the eternal battle between autonomy and authority, power over and power with, in the context of the most beloved story in the Christian Gospels. He finds striking parallels in the account of Jesus' birth and the role of government in the outskirts of the Roman Empire. He writes, "The whole narrative is framed by government attempts to assert and maintain control. The site of the birth is determined by a government census. The wise men frustrate Herod's attempt to locate a competing king. The slaughter of the innocents is state-sponsored mass murder. The Holy Family must flee to Egypt as refugees. The Roman Empire and its clients are attempting to snuff out potential sedition in its cradle, and that intention is fulfilled some 3 decades later to all outward appearances in a public trial and crucifixion." End quote. In the short run, the Romans won. They always did. But in the long run, Rome lost. The followers of Jesus took over the empire, and the empire eventually faded into memory, while the religion, for better and for worse, went on. Rome was a colonial power. They were very good at pitting warring tribes against each other and letting them do a large part of the work of conquest. Our own history, as a group of colonies established to subdue the natives, used the same strategy, pitting one tribe against each other. Today, both major political parties are actually coalitions of tribes, bound together by a mix of self-interest and certainty that their understanding of the way things are and the way things should be is the right one. Although I have to admit, I'm baffled by why Hollywood, part of Wall Street, labor unions, women and minorities, and a few billionaires all hang out in the Democratic Party, while the rest of the billionaires, Wall Street, along with religious conservatives, white nationalists, and libertarians, inhabit the Republican Party. Back to Michael Gerson. He concludes, quote, "The Christmas story is an inversion of our view of power. The culmination of history takes place among common people. Shepherds are audiences for angels. The stable is more influential than the royal court. Refugees are more important than rulers. The hopes of humankind are met against all expectation by a helpless infant. Power is found in the renunciation of power. This great inversion forbids us from believing that cruelty can bring authority, or that peace can be achieved through murder, or that justice can arrive through lawlessness. It calls us to humility and decency over arrogance and ruthlessness, and hope that love will find the final word." End quote. The principal enemy of democracy is hierarchy in all its forms: patriarchy, oligarchy, totalitarianism, any kind of system that allows the few to wield power over the many. But another, more subtle enemy of democracy is tribalism, building fortresses of like-minded people who only talk to each other, who read the same books, watch the same news stations, and try not to let anything challenge their certainty about being right. Tribes feel threatened by others who don't see the world the same way. Tribes want power to be in the hands of those who share their worldview, their values, their religious understanding. My daughter Christine told me that Bella, a rising senior at the College of Charleston, has found her tribe. I'm happy for her, but I hope she doesn't stop searching. My youngest granddaughter at 15 identifies with 3 tribes: Girl Scouts, tap dancers, and science nerds. I, too, found my tribes over the years: academics, economists, Unitarian Universalists, members of the League of Women Voters, feminists. These are some of the tribes that are my people. There's lots of overlap among my tribes. I'm drawn to those who share and affirm my values and my worldview. We all are. I seek out their members to do things with, talk to, exchange information, and sigh together about the state of the world. And I'm sure that you too have circles of kindred souls with whom to do the same. Some of these tribal members are more my people than others. I probably don't have a lot in common with a white male, Southern Baptist, real estate developer, and Trump supporter, other than skin color and being a Clemson Tiger fan. And yet, one of the dearest people in my life has been a white male real estate developer who served as a Republican legislator in South Carolina for 14 years and is a member of Clemson's First Baptist Church. On the other hand, he belongs to my academic tribe, a fellow economist, and his Baptist church is one of those that left the Southern Baptist Convention. Actually, they were kicked out. And he was a Republican who was pro-choice and pro-public education and ran as a Republican because that was the only path to election. Tribes overlap. We have to be open to encountering the whole person, not just the labels or the stereotype. Another powerful message in the Jesus story is that the Jews were a tribal people, 12 tribes, loosely tied together by a shared history, land, and distinctive religious beliefs and practices. Jesus himself preached against tribalism in the story of the Good Samaritan. Samaritans were outcasts among the Jews. Descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they remained in Judea while the real Jews went into captivity in Babylon. Samaritans intermarried with non-Jewish locals, so they were not tribally pure. Christianity moved beyond Jewish tribalism to proclaim a message of hope and shared humanity to all people. Eventually, tribalism within Christianity reasserted itself rather violently, erupting into crusades, the Inquisition, denominations, religious wars. Christianity did not bring about world peace or end misogyny or result in equality, but it did sometimes hold up those lofty ideals. In search for power in our personal lives, we often seek advantage with our tribes, networking. Good old boys, good old girl networks, alumni of the same college, white people. We join lobbying efforts based on interest group membership, farmers, hedge fund managers, members of AARP. That's not to condemn all tribes as self-serving. The League of Women Voters, the Sierra Club, NAACP, the Moral Monday folks, Brave Angels, are all tribal groups that seek to build community by allying with and talking to members of other tribes. Progressive Christians, elderly, environmentalists, African Americans. These groups are tribal in their shared values, but inclusive in other important ways. The League welcomes male members, and NAACP is happy to have white folks join, and Moral Monday in North Carolina includes some of us heretics. All of them believe in intertribal alliances. As religious progressives, we are not immune to tribalism. So what does the fifth principle and its relatives, the first, respect, and the third, acceptance, what is it called to do about our tribalism? How do we practice these principles? Finding your identity is an important challenge of adolescence. It's a stage in our personal, moral, and spiritual development as we recognize our membership in ever larger communities. Part of finding your identity is finding and joining your tribes, team sports, bands, sororities, fraternities. But most of us in this room are no longer, or in this virtual room, are no longer adolescents. We have to outgrow the narrow comfort of tribal identity in order to truly connect with the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Engaging with others not of our tribe is an important part of that growth. Two of the great religious thinkers of our time have offered some constructive guidance. Catholic theologian Richard Rohr says that the task of adolescence and early adulthood is indeed to build an identity. He describes it as a scaffolding that encloses and protects us while we work our way through the challenges of work, family, and responsibility. But the task of the later years is tearing down that outer identity shell as a scaffolding we no longer need. James Fowler's 6 stages of faith development describe a steady growth from a narrow us to a more inclusive we, and ultimately to a global we. Fowler said that the median expected stage among Unitarian Universalists is a 4, higher than some traditions, but far from the global universalism of stage 6 that apparently is attained mostly by saints. Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, I'm pretty sure they were all 6s. I'm not. Nor I expect are you. But we can move beyond tribalism to embrace more of those who are different from us in ways that divide us. 4 is better than a 2. Even a 5, which is not quite universalism, but beyond tribalism, is an attainable goal if we work at it. How do we begin? First, we need to see how tribalism in ourselves keeps us from seeing members of other tribes as just as fully human as we are. Unconscious white privilege is just one of many forms of tribalism. Count your tribes, count your labels. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, white, heterosexual, religious liberal, political moderate, academic, old person, feminist, adopted Southerner. The list goes on. All those labels have not counterparts. I'm not conservative. I'm not young. I'm not patriarchal. I'm not lesbian. I'm not a person of color. So think for a moment how you define yourself as not with your box of labels. The UUA is bumbling through efforts to conquer certain forms of tribalism within our faith community, especially racism. But tribe is not just race, it's also age, gender, sexual orientation, class, ability or disability, and even that great divide about access to and mastery of technology that splits us into warring tribes of geeks and troglodytes. And I fit in the latter category. Not quite, but close. In the Buddhist loving kindness prayer, we pray first for ourselves, that we may know peace, that we may be healthy and experience joy, that we may love and be loved. Then it is time to ask those same blessings for others. First for those we love, or at least like, then for those toward whom we feel neutral, then those with whom we disagree, all the way up to enemies that we see as threats to our way of life. When I pray for our president, I ask that he may know joy, happiness, and peace, and be open to the transforming power of love. It may not change him, but I know it changes me, at least in the moment. Belonging to multiple tribes is neither all good nor all bad. It is when we define members of other tribes as different, inferior, misled, that tribalism becomes a destructive force rather than an affirming community. I ask that you try this week to become woke to your own tribalism and more tolerant, more accepting, more respectful of tribes other than your own. Amen. May it be so. Benediction. As we leave this virtual place, the gathering wigwam of one of our many tribes, let us be open to the challenge to respect the tribalism of others and be aware of the limitations of our own. Democracy will only survive as a way of sharing our common life if we invest ourselves in the tolerance, respect, and mutual forbearance that it requires in order to function. Take the light with you, carry the light, share the light, be the light. Amen and blessed be.